YouTube, how we doing? It's Matty B. Welcome back to the channel. And as always, thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I'm coming to you guys a few days late. My apologies. I spent the entire weekend out of Loretta Lynn's qualifier down the road from my house and saw some epic racing, so I should have some really good content coming out for the rest of the week from that. But we're back for another Supercross review, and wow, how awesome was the racing in Seattle? That was a damn barn burner. We saw a new winner from one of the emerging stars in Supercross, and then we also saw some more drama and action from the beef and rivalry that consists of Hayden Deegan and JuJu's Beaumare. And then we had an all-timer epic 450 main event with Cooper Webb and Chase Sexton going down to the wire. And man, have we ever seen a bigger mental giant in the sport of Supercross than Cooper Webb? I kind of think not. But we'll get into all that and much more. Got to thank my channel sponsors. Thank you to QuickMoto. Use my code on screen for 20% off of a sweet set of graphics, backgrounds, canopies, and more. Also, Sirius Studio. I'm now a partner in the company, so anything you buy using my code on screen MB820, a slice goes to me and helps support keeping the channel going. And then finally, the bike waffle is almost wrapping up. I'm going to draw the winner a week from today, next Monday on April 7th. Got all the information on screen if anyone wants to enter for a chance to win a bike for $100. First off, let's talk about the track. Those guys did an awesome job salvaging what should have been an absolute mess. I mean, there was rain for days and nights in Seattle leading up to this one. I thought Noah was going to have to bust the arc out, but it turned into a very raceable track. Of course, it was super rutted and looked like corduroy pants, but that's in the contract for Seattle. You'll have that. But they did some modifications based on the weather, and I feel like for all things considered and the situation they were in, it couldn't have turned out much better. I was listening to the Racer X Review podcast earlier today, and they were talking about Ezra Lusk being brought on board to try to have some input with the track changes and stuff like that. And I just got to applaud everybody in charge and involved in making that decision, because nobody knows the sport better than a former racer, especially somebody like Ezra Lusk that was at the top. So I think that's only a positive thing for the sport moving forward. But yeah, that track was treacherous. I don't think you could pay me enough to ride that, but then again, nobody would pay me at all to ride it, so I think we're safe there. But provided some great racing. I would have hated it as a racer, but as a fan, that was super entertaining. And I've seen a lot of people talk about how we shouldn't go back to Seattle anymore, but maybe as a rider, you would think that, but as a fan, I'm not complaining about the racing we've seen the last couple of years in Seattle. It's been awesome, and that's part of Supercross. You see a little bit of everything. Now let's get into the results. We'll start with the 250 class with the win, the Kiwi, Cole Davies, and I've been waiting on this one for a while. I've seen it coming for weeks, for months now, honestly, and this kid, he just doesn't stop impressing me. I really think he'll be Supercross champion by next year, and this is a super, super bold hot take, but I'm just going to throw it out there. I think Cole Davies might be the biggest threat to Jet Lawrence's quest for the 72 win record. I think this kid's next level in Supercross, his technique, his style, everything is just so beyond his years. He just looks awesome out there, and he seems to be the full package. The personality and everything's coming out, and I couldn't be more of a fan. And again, remember, he was supposed to be racing SMX next. Like, I still can't wrap my head around that. So great job, Cole Davies. Then in second, the most silent second place of all time, Garrett Marchbanks, and I'm so stoked for Garrett to get back on the box. He's been struggling. That shoulder's torn up to shreds. It's not just a torn labia, it's a torn everything. And he's been soldiering through. Some mad props to him. And he's usually good in these kinds of track conditions, but I did hear that he's made some changes in the program with the team, and I think that's going to help a lot moving forward. I don't think this will just be a one-off podium, but I'm stoked for Garrett. He's a good dude and works hard, so great job to Marchbanks. Then in third, here's where we get interesting, Hayden Deegan. And I really thought after the whole arrest and coming out with the orange gear and the pinstripes, I thought he would dominate, because, I mean, if you're going to do all that, dominating's kind of the way to put a stamp on it. But unfortunately, it was a mistake-filled night for him. And I've heard some people, some analysts talk about how he makes more mistakes in Supercross than outdoors. And it is true. I feel like in outdoors, you can kind of bulldog your way out of some more things than Supercross. But either way, he's the points leader, crashed in the heat race, crashed in the main, still came back, had the pace the whole time. The dude doesn't get tired, was digging to the end, and got all the way back to third, delivered that slam to JuJu, got delivered slams from Joe Shimoda, which we'll get to here shortly. But I thought that was a great salvage ride for Deegan, and he's looking really good to wrap up this championship here in the next few rounds. And then we'll go ahead and get into the drama surrounding Deegan and the fourth place rider, two Jews, Julian Beaumare. And I was actually impressed with Beaumare in this one, because he also has the torn labia. And guys, I'm saying labia. I love it when y'all call it out, but I'm not trying to say JuJu's being a sissy, man. Like, yes, it's his torn labrum. He's a bad dude for riding through it. I'm just making a play on words. But I was impressed. I didn't feel like those were his track conditions, especially with it being all sticky. I feel like that's not very forgiving for a bad shoulder. But that was a really good ride. It was a bummer he wasn't able to fire back on Deegan after he delivered the slam. But yeah, I think he was tired. I don't believe he's been riding all that much. And That's just the way it goes whenever you're fighting off an injury and you're not firing on all cylinders. But then we had the post-race altercation where I guess Deegan rode up first and started it. They were chirping back and forth at each other. Deegan was mad that JuJu posted the screenshot of his mugshot with the arrest and all that on his Instagram story, which, I mean, yeah, I understand where you're coming from, but that mugshot was also in a million places. I even had people get mad at me for it being on my channel, and I'm not trying to expose anything. So if the Deegans are upset about that, my apologies. But I'm here for all this drama. It's awesome. The little helmet slap, all that kind of stuff. And I'm super bummed that they got fined for it because that was just such a nothing burger. So I feel like that set a precedent going forward that if you're going to lay your hands on somebody, you might as well just rock them. But I can't wait for Philly moving forward. I think JuJu's got his eyes on revenge. And you all know Deegan's not afraid to get himself into some scraps. So stay tuned for all that. Then rounding out the top five, Joe Shimoda. And I feel like everybody was probably wondering, what was his vendetta with Deegs? Like, he was going out for blood against Hayden Deegan. But it was kind of hard to see on TV because right as the gate dropped, the pyro and the fireworks kind of blocked it. But Deegan cut off Shimoda so hard right out of the gate, like totally chopped the front wheel. And I don't even really think it was on purpose. It kind of looked like he got a little off balance. But I feel like that's probably where that aggression came from with Joe against Hayden. And it was fun to watch. I mean, he teed him up 2-3 times, and props to Hayden for bulldogging it and staying up. But yeah, that was really fun to watch. And really, this 250 class in general, all this piss, vinegar, and testosterone, I love it. Always keeps us entertained. Then in the sixth spot, Michael Mosiman. I didn't see much of him in the main, but I wanted to bring up that wild heat race crash. Just buries the front end and goes to Indonesia in a corner and clotheslines Jordan Smith, just clocks him. And I think that might have been the first time we've seen the Alpine Star airbag go off on TV. He looked like he was pretty blown up after that crash. And I did see on Twitter, Jordan noted that he thought the airbag was a major success because he came in with some beat up ribs and he had quite a few crashes. And he said he left feeling exactly the same as whenever he got there. So that's a huge success in the advancement of safety for the sport for sure. We all know people hit the deck all the time. So it's cool to see more protection coming to the market. Quiet seventh for Enzo Lopes. Glad to see him getting back on track here in the States. Then eighth, Cody Schock with a T. The T stands for transfer. He thought he was K-Dub, but he landed and just stuck like Chuck. Front flip, but he got up and got an eighth. I'm glad he's not hurt, and he's had a great season also. Massive shout out to my boy Gavin Towers, top 10. I think that might be his first top 10, and he is really coming around this season. I feel like even since A1, he has gotten so much better in the whoops, just the whole track. And then last but not least, in this 250 class, shout out to Stav Orland from Uganda. Has to be the first Ugandan to make a Supercross main. And I want to get up with Stav and ask him what God looks like because my boy saw him every single lap in the whoops in that LCQ, but he got it done. Mad props. Love to see it. Now onto the 450 class with the win. Cooper Webb, second year in a row, he comes in clutch in Seattle. And what more can you say about this dude? I mean, he's slower than Chase all day, gets straight up beat in the heat race. Halfway through that main, it looked like he was on the ropes. Looks like everybody had reeled him in and looked like he was in trouble. And this dude just tricks himself into thinking he's the best guy on the night every time. And I say he tricks himself into thinking it, but he ends up proving it every time. I really don't know how he does it, but that's a big 6-point swing in this championship. It's definitely far from over. I see it going down to the wire, and I still think the number 2 is going to come out on top, but it's going to be spicy all the way down to the end. Then in the second spot, Chase Sexton. I'm bummed for him because I feel like that was a hell of a ride for him. Came from way back, reeled everyone in, made the moves, and then he just had to deal with the mental giant that is Cooper Webb. And I really have no idea what I would do if I was faster than somebody all day, caught him from way back, passed him, pulled away a little bit, and then still didn't beat him. I really don't know where I'd go from there, but that's why I'm not an elite athlete, and guys like Chase are. He'll be able to rebound next weekend. And a lot of talk about silly season with Chase Sexton going to Kawi. I'm not claiming this to be gospel by any means, but I do have a source. I don't have many sources, but I have a source on this that Sexton has signed a letter of intent with Kawasaki, which gives KTM 30 days to use their right of refusal to try to match the offer. So it's going to be interesting to see where he goes moving forward. He's been moving around a lot the last few years, so I almost wonder if this isn't a grass is always greener type of situation, but the Kawi is really good for stability from people I've talked to, so I do think it would fit Chase very well. So I'm excited to see where the silly season goes. I feel like Sexton is the piece of the puzzle that's got to fall into place before everybody else can make moves. Then third podium in 4 rounds, AP. I told you guys it was coming. I may have been saying it every week, and a broken clock's right twice a day no matter what, but yeah, I mean, AP's came on strong. This is what I was expecting to see out of him all year, and this is what I expect to continue seeing out of him. And you guys have heard it here first, even though I've already said it a few times, so maybe you're hearing it third or fourth. But AP's winning one of these weekends, especially one of these soft tracks with all the ruts. these all have his name on them. So stay tuned for an AP dub. Fourth, Kickstart Kenny. I honestly think without the shoulder injury, he wins this one because he's awesome in these track conditions. He looked great for the first 6-7 minutes or so, but then that shoulder, I mean, the thing's falling apart. So he did what he could do. And all things considered, I think a fourth is a great ride. It's a bummer that he's kind of found himself on the outside looking in on this championship battle, but he's still been way better than I thought all year. And it's been awesome having Roxon back in top form. It's always better when the best guys are at their best. Fifth, great ride for Dylan Ferrandis. I feel like that's the best ride out of him we've seen in a long time. I think he was one of the few guys skimming the whoop, so that was a huge advantage for him. Six for Jay Coop. What could have been, I almost thought the dude was going to pull up and win the thing, but he ended up having a big crash. I think he was probably going to end up third, but he's back to sixth, and he's been really good after those first few West Coast rounds. Once we've come east where the tracks break down and he can get away with jumping those whoops, he's been awesome, and he's another one of those pieces of the puzzle for silly season next year, as he's definitely proven his worth this year. Last main event spot, we're going to talk P9, Benny Bloss on the Beta. Awesome ride. I mean, you're putting a new brand that's only been in Supercross for a couple years in the top 10. I think Benny spent like 3 to 5 years in the hospital last year, so an awesome comeback and story all around. And how about that insane LCQ? I mean, did Grant Harlan walk under a ladder with a black cat or what? He crashed out last minute in the heat race and lost a spot. Then that last rhythm section, him and Anthony Rodriguez just exploded. It was like a landmine went off. And I think Hunter Schlosser was in 7th place when the white flag flew, and he ended up making the main because Politelli also went down along with those other two. And it just proves how gnarly the track really is, because those top elite guys make it look way too easy. I mean, it's truly a death sentence out there, and the LCQs are a much better visual of that. And then last but not least, a DNR for did not race Jason Anderson, and I still have not heard anything about what the family emergency may have been that he pulled out for. But prayers up to Jason and family. Family first, always, and I hope everything's cool and we see him back next weekend. And speaking of next weekend we'll be back on the East Coast in Foxborough. Long drive for the truck drivers this week. Stimulants have entered the chat. They'll be living on the road, but I can't wait for it. Thank y'all for watching today's video. I'll catch y'all back on Wednesday for a little track preview and some midweek Supercross topics. And remember, let me know in the comments what you think, if I'm out to lunch, if I've got some points, if you want to hate, throw it all my way. I'm cool with it. But I appreciate y'all watching. Catch you next time.